Hi fellows, now we are at chapter 5 of the book A Tale of Two Cities written by Charles Dickens, and this storybook is modified for intermediate and upper intermediate students, from which you can learn a lot of vocabulary and practice listening. As you already know, this story is published by Oxford Bookworm Library, written by Charles Dickens, copyrighted by Oxford University Press. And this is a historical novel set in London and Paris before and during the French Revolution. Let's continue our story. If you haven't watched the previous videos, it's not a good point to start from. Go back and see other videos. Follow this story from the beginning, from chapter 1. Well, it's chapter 5. Two men speak of love. From the title of the story, we realize that two men that are similar in face, in appearance, they want to express their love to Lucie Manette, daughter to Dr. Manette, the physician. Dr. Manette is the prisoner, the person who has been imprisoned for 18 years in Bastille prison. Let's start reading. 12 months after the death of the Marquise in France, Marquise is the uncle to Charles Dickens. 12 months after the death of the Marquise in France, Charles Dickens, the person who had been accused of spying once and a friend to Dr. Manette, had become a successful teacher of French in London. He had known when he came to London that he would have to work hard to earn his living, and he was successful. It's good. He was also in love, as we know. He had loved Lucie Manette from the time when his life was in danger in the Old Bailey. Well, Lucie and her father, Dr. Manette, saved him in the court. He had never heard a sound so sweet as her gentle voice. A gentle voice means a kind and careful voice. A kind and careful voice. So gentle means kind and careful. He had never seen a face so beautiful as hers. But he had never spoken to her about his love. So he is harboring a secret love for Lucie now. The death of his uncle in France had become, over the 12 months, like a dream to him. He wasn't fond of his uncle. He didn't like his uncle very much, as his uncle was a cruel man. But he had said nothing to Lucie of his feelings, nor of what had happened. Why? He had good reason for this. What is his good reason? Not to express your love to someone. But one day in the summer, he came to Dr. Manette's home in London. He knew that Lucie was out with Miss Pross. Miss Pross was, or is, Lucie's servant, and he had decided to speak to her father. Dr. Manette was now strong in body and mind, and sad memories of his long years in prison did not come back to him often. Yes, he was in prison for 18 years in Bastille prison. When Dickens arrived, the doctor welcomed him warmly. Dr. Manette, said Dickens, I know that Lucie is out, but I have to come here today to speak to you. There was a silence. Do you want to speak to me about Lucie? Asked the doctor slowly. Yes, Dr. Manette, I love your daughter dearly. If there was ever love in the world, I love Lucie. So he finally confessed, harboring feelings for Lucie to Dr. Manette. I believe you, said Dr. Manette sadly. Why sadly? It's very hard for me to speak of her at any time. But I believe you, Charles Dickens. Have you spoken to Lucie about your love? I think Dr. Manette is afraid to lose her daughter. No, never. I know how much your daughter means to you, Dr. Manette. Her love for you and your love for her, these are the greatest things in your life. And in hers. I love Lucie. With all my heart, I love her. But I do not want to come between you and her. To come between people? What does it mean to come between people? It means to make people argue and feel bad about each other. To come between people. To spoil their relationship. The two of you will never be separated because of me. I see. Dr. Manette is afraid to lose a daughter, and Charles Dickens is assuring Dr. Manette that their relationship is not going to be over. For a moment, Dr. Manette turned his head away, and his eyes were full of fear and pain. Then he looked back at Dickens and tried to smile. Well, he's afraid to lose the daughter. You have spoken very honestly, Charles, he said. Have you any reason to believe that Lucie loves you? None. Then what do you want from me? A promise. A promise that if Lucie ever tells you that she loves me, you will not speak against me. And will tell her what I have said. I know that she would never accept me if she believed that it would make you unhappy. Very wise. I can promise you more than that, Charles. If Lucie ever tells me that she loves you, I shall give her to you. So, Dr. Manette approves of their marriage. Thank you, Dr. Manette, said Dickens. Gratefully. Said Dickens gratefully. Well, gratefully means thankfully. There is one thing more. My name in England is not my real name. Now, it's time to come clean. I want to tell you what my real name is and why I am in England. Is he really a spy? We don't know. Stop, said the doctor. He had even put his hands over his ears. I don't want to know. Tell me when I ask you. If Lucie agrees to marry you, you shall tell me on the morning of your marriage. It was dark when Dickens left Dr. Manette, and it was some time later when Lucie and Miss Pross came home. Lucie. Father! Lucie called. Where are you? She had no answer, but there were strange sounds coming from her father's bedroom. Dr. Manette is upset. He's afraid of losing his daughter. Frightened, she ran upstairs and found her father pale, means his skin was white, and silent, busy at his old prison work of making shoes. Oh no. The shadow of the Bastille had fallen on him again. She took his arm and spoke gently to him, and together they walked up and down for a long time, until at last Dr. Manette went quietly to bed. Oh my God, this is very bad. The shadow of Bastille. The effect that prison had on Dr. Manette is back. Although Mr. Cartoon visited Dr. Manette's house quite often, he usually said very little when he was there. We met Sidney Cartoon at court. One day in August, he arrived when Dr. Manette was out and he was received by Lucie. She had always been a little shy with him, but on that day she noticed something different in his face. Aren't you well, Mr. Cartoon? Mr. Cartoon and Charles Dickens look similar, and they both have secret love for Lucie. No, probably not, Miss Manette, but my way of life is not good for my health because he drinks alcohol. That seems sad, said Lucie gently. Why do you not change your way of life? It's too late for that. I shall never be better than I am. But, Miss Manette, there is something that I want to say to you, but I find it so difficult. Will you listen to me? The moment of expressing love. If it will help you, Mr. Cartoon, I will be happy to listen to you, said Lucie. But she was pale and trembling. Well, it's the second time that we are seeing this word pale, having a skin color that is very white, a very white skin color, whiter than it usually is. Miss Manette, I know that you could never have feelings of love for me, a man who has spent his life so badly. Even without my love, Mr. Cartoon, can I not save you? Can I not help you? No, Miss Manette, said Cartoon. Even if it was possible for you to love me, it is too late for me. I would only make you sad and destroy your love, but it has been a last dream of my heart. These love words are very gripping. To see you and your father together, to see the home that you have made for him, this has brought back old and happier memories for me, because Cartoon and Dr. Manette, they were old friends. Can I do nothing to help you? Asked Lucie sadly. You see a painting of Sidney Cartoon and Lucie talking together. Sidney Cartoon is expressing his love to Lucie. It has been a last dream of my heart. Well, Sidney Cartoon is continuing. Only this, Miss Manette. Let me remember that I spoke to you of my feelings of my heart, and that you were kind and gentle towards me. Oh, Mr. Cartoon, try again to change. No, Miss Manette, it is too late. My bad habits will never change now. But tell me that you will never speak of what I have said today, not to anyone, not even to the person dearest to you. Well, the person dearest to Lucie is her father. Master Cartoon, said Lucie. This is your secret. No one will ever know of it from me. Thank you, Miss Manette. I shall never speak of this again, but in the hour of my death, it will be a happy memory for me that my last words of love were to you. I really like this sentence. I would like to read it again. In the hour of my death, it will be a happy memory for me that my last words of love were to you. Really romantic. Lucie had never heard Mr. Cartoon speak like this before. Tears came to her eyes as she thought of his hopeless, miserable life. Miserable means very unhappy, wretchedly unhappy, or uncomfortable. Don't cry, said Sidney Cartoon. I'm not worth your love. Means I don't deserve your love. I'm not worth your love means I don't deserve your love. To be worth, to deserve. But you should know that for me, or for anyone close to you, I would do anything. Please remember always that there is a man who would give his life to keep someone you love alive and close to you. Goodbye, Miss Manette. One day of Lucie's marriage to Charles Dickens, really? So they finally got married. Miss Laurie and Miss Pross stood with Lucie outside the door of Dr. Manette's room. Is Dr. Manette really losing her daughter again? Inside, the doctor and Mr. Darnay had been talking together for a long time. Soon it would be time to leave for the church. Lucie looked very beautiful, and Mr. Laurie watched her proudly. He talked about the day so long ago when he had brought Lucie as a baby in his arms from France to England. Jarvis Laurie is the owner of the Tellson's Bank, and he carried Lucie from France to England when she was a child. Miss Pross, too, had her memories and thought fondly of her brother Solomon. Fondly means with affection, with liking. To think fondly of someone, to think with affection about someone. He had stolen money from her many years ago. Solomon? Really? Solomon had stolen money from Miss Pross many years ago, and she had never seen him since then. But she still loved him, so there is a love between Mr. Solomon and Miss Pross. The door of the doctor's room opened, and he came out with Charles Dickens. The doctor's face was white, but he was calm. He took his daughter's arm, and they went out to the waiting coach. The others followed in a second coach, and soon in a nearby church. Lucie Manette and Charles Dickens were married. After the marriage, Lucie and Charles came back to the house for breakfast, and then Lucie had to say goodbye to her father for 2 weeks. The first time that they had not been together since his return from Paris. When Lucie and Charles had left, Mr. Laurie noticed a change in the doctor. A little sadness was natural, but there was a lost, frightened look in the doctor's eyes, which worried Mr. Laurie very much. When he left to go to Tellson's Bank, he whispered to Miss Pross that he would return as quickly as he could. Jarvis Laurie and Dr. Manette were old friends. 2 hours later, he hurried back to the house, and Miss Pross met him at the door. "Oh, what shall we do, Mr. Laurie?" she cried. "Why?" "He doesn't know me, and he is making shoes again." Mr. Laurie went up to the doctor's room. "Dr. Manette, my dear friend, look at me. Don't you remember me?" But Dr. Manette said nothing and walked on means continued working in silence. Once again, he was a prisoner in the Bastille, without friends or family, without even a name of his own. He had a number, 105. For 9 days and 9 nights, the shoemaker walked on, continued working, leaving his table only to sleep, eat, or walk up and down his room. For 9 days and 9 nights, the shoemaker walked on, the old Dr. Manette. Mr. Laurie sat with him night and day, talking gently to him from time to time, trying to bring his friend's mind back to the present. Then at last, on the 10th morning, The shoemaking work was put away, and Dr. Alexander Manette, pale but calm, was his old self again. Lucie was never told, and in the quiet and happy years that followed her marriage, Dr. Manette remained strong in mind and body. Is this the end of our story? Yes. Actually, not the end of our story, the end of chapter 5. These are the vocabulary, the words that we learned in this chapter. Gentle, do you know the meaning? Do you know the meaning of to come between? Gratefully, pale, miserable, and fondly. Thank you all for watching this chapter. This is the end of chapter 5, and the story continues in the next video. So until next video, so long.